Hello, this is Brooks Whittington with halfwheel.com. Today we're taking a look at the El Casco M765 chrome-plated cigar cutter. Now, El Casco is a company that was founded in 1920 in the country of Spain, and exclusively it made revolvers until the Great Depression hit. In order to diversify its products, the company started making desktop accessories in 1935, like staplers and things of that nature. The cigar cutter is one of the accessories that it makes now, and it's got 4 different versions priced between $130 and $230. Now, the chrome-plated, which this is, comes in at about $190. They have a 23-karat gold-plated, which comes in at $231. A chrome and black version, which comes in at $155, and a black and 23-karat gold-plated, which comes in at about $213. And now we got the history out of the way, we get to the physical specs. This is a single guillotine cutter that has a design that looks much like a hybrid of a hand grip strengthener, as you see here, and a single hole punch. The body is made entirely of stainless steel, but the blade is made of Solingen stainless steel from Germantown of Solingen, which is otherwise known as the German knife-making capital. The cutter weighs 330 grams, which is quite heavy. It measures 1.6 inches long, which, as you can see, is almost exactly the length of a dollar bill. And it is 3.2 inches wide with a total height of 1.3 inches here. Price of the cutter does include a nice little gift box, as you can see here. And the interior here of the hole, the opening that you put the cigars into, measures exactly 5.54 millimeters. All right, so to cut a cigar, you're going to pick up the El Casco in your hand, and you're going to push that cap against that back plate there that's in the opening. Now, you don't want to push it too hard. You want to just give it just a little bit of tension. If you push too hard, you might damage the cap or the wrapper. But you want to give it a little bit of tension, and when you're squeezing the handles, it will make that blade go all the way through the cap like that. But be aware, as you can see, that head moves as you squeeze. And so you want to compensate for that. You put the cigar in the opening and then push just a little bit and then compensate as it moves and it cuts through. And as you can see, a nice, easy, clean cut. Then the tobacco is left inside there, as you see. And to get rid of it, you just turn around and comes right out. So one of the major problems that I have with the El Casco cutter is the fact that there's very little visibility when you're talking about using the cutter in a normal fashion. And so if you were to put a cap into the cigar here, you really don't have that much of a visual representation of how much you're going to actually be taking off of that cap. Now you can alleviate this somewhat by turning the cutter on its side here, and this is the only side that's open, the other side is closed, as you see. But if you turn it around to this side, you can actually see inside where the blade is cutting. And it's a very thin blade, and it actually comes to the very edge of the inside of that section too, where the opening is. And so you can actually see a little bit on where that blade is going to be cutting. And so if you put that cigar into the cap, into the actual opening there, you can tell just a little bit that that blade is going to come in and cut through there. It's not an exact amount by any means, but it's certainly better than what you had just normally using it in a normal fashion like so. And so when you put it through, you basically want to make sure that you have exactly what you want. Be aware again that that head will move when you're cutting, and you want to just cut right through in a nice clean fashion. You have a nice clean cut there, and the tobacco stays in there, as always, bumped out. All right, now I thought I'd go through some quick good and bad things about the cutter, the El Casco, in the about a month or so that I've been using it for just about every cigar that I've cut. And good things. First of all, it cuts cigars very, very well. Now, it does cut them cleanly. There are some issues with how straight the cut is, which I'll get to in a minute. But in terms of the actual cuts themselves, they're very clean and consistently clean as long as it's used correctly. It's an easy cigar cutter to use once you get the hang of it. It's not as easy as a double guillotine or just a regular, single guillotine or cigar scissors. It's not as easy as that. But once you get the hang of it, once you get used to its little quirks, it's very easy to use and can be, used over and over again, very, very quickly. It's built very, very well, made entirely of metal, and it feels like it looks like it, and it's built very, very well, for sure. And the cool thing is, another cool thing is the fact that cap, as I mentioned before, stays in that section underneath until you're ready to get rid of it. It's something that saved me a couple of times when I've really not wanted to have cap and tobacco, laying around everywhere and that kind of thing. It's really a cool feature that I think is underrated by most people. And now the bad things about the cutter. So leading off is the fact that, as I mentioned and showed you before, that head does move when you're actually cutting a cigar. And that can be a problem for sure until you get used to it. The cuts are clean, but they can be definitely off kilter a little bit until you actually use that correctly. It's something that the small opening on the head here means that you're not going to cut pretty much anything larger than about a 56, without having to cut more than once. And, torpedoes are a huge issue. When you're talking about torpedoes, for example, that torpedo head means that you're going to have to cut that thing a couple of times. So it cuts clean, but in terms of having to actually get that, the actual cut down far enough for you to actually get a nice draw, it means you're going to cut a couple of times at least. And there were some times I had to cut 3 times on a torpedo in order to actually get it to the point where I needed to get it. The cuts are clean, but you do have to do it a little bit, more often with torpedo heads. There's very little visibility, as I mentioned before, when you're talking about putting the cigar into that opening. You can see a little bit from here, but in terms of the actual, just gauging absolutely correctly or accurately, it's difficult for sure to gauge 100% accurately how much of that cap is being taken off. And it is a pain in the ass to keep clean, for sure. There's a lot of fingerprints, things of that nature on this flat part especially. This part with the ridges, not so much. But with this flat part, there's definitely some issues when it comes to keeping it clean, dust magnet, things of that nature. So after all of that, can I recommend the El Casco M765 Chrome Cigar Cutter? The answer is yes, but with a few caveats. Look, this is a very unique cutter, and it's unique visually, and it's unique in how it works. But unlike a lot of the unique cutters that I have reviewed on this site, like the Jetline or the various cigar knives from knife companies, this one actually cuts cigars very, very well. You have to get used to it. You have to use it properly. But when used correctly, this cutter actually does its job in a very straightforward and very easy manner. Now, $180 is a lot of money for a cutter, no doubt, and you can get just as good at cuts, if not better, perhaps, with cheaper cutters. But this one is a very unique visually and unique in how it works, enough to the point where I can say that with confidence I can recommend this if this is something that you're looking for. For halfwheel.com, this is Brooks Whittington. If you need any news or reviews for Halfwheel, for cigar related information, go to halfwheel.com.